Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. Now, I've been saying for some time that despite all the SNP smiles and celebrations about Nicola Sturgeon being cleared in the branch form investigation, that you must always remember she's still being investigated, just not part of branch form. We're talking about Operation Copa. This is where there is the investigation into the potential corporate murder of tens of thousands of people. And that hasn't gone away. Now, I've been talking about it and keep it in the public domain, keep people being aware of it. Well, now mainstream media are starting to pick up on it. And there's this push to try and highlight this because I think it's good because we mustn't let this escape. We mustn't let this woman get away with anything she may have done. Got to be careful what I say and how I say it for obvious reasons. But she is still under investigation. As I say, they're looking into these COVID-19 deaths. Now, she was reported in March 23 by good friend of the channel, Leslie Roberts. We've interviewed Leslie. She's an absolute hero. This is a woman whose life has been turned upside down by her advocacy on behalf of others, not just over the COVID deaths, but over the child deaths at various hospitals, over the destruction of the land, things being built on inappropriate land. There's so many things. She is an absolute hero. This is a woman I think needs to be recognised more. But her, Roger Livermore, of course, and Rab Wilson have worked very, very hard on pushing this, or highlighting as well as pushing this problem where all these people were basically locked up, locked away, removed from society, and then euthanized effectively by the treatment campaign or the treatment regime as approved by Gene Freeman. The end of life, and it's there. They took it out. The thing is, it was in the original documentation. Treatment for COVID was euthanize the patient. And doing so without consent from the patient, without consent from the family. When people complained, police were called. They were stopped from seeing people. There was all sorts of nasty things going on. And of course, Leslie and Roger and Rab have been campaigning on this for several years now. They're saying it's corporate manslaughter / corporate homicide, depends on intent. Now, the end of life thing where they were giving them midazolam and morphine, effectively, sort of thing you give a dog when you're putting them down, isn't it? This has been highlighted by others as being an end-of-life terminal treatment. But it was in the treatment book that was advised and put out by the SNP. Now, they suddenly changed it. They realised how bad this was looking and they changed it. But thanks to the Wayback Machine, you can go back and see the original version that was out there. There's no getting away from it. They put that out there. Euthanize the patient. It's how you treat COVID. And there's tens of thousands of people in care homes, people put into care homes from a hospital without being tested and all this. This is what Leslie's been campaigning for. Leslie, very sadly, of course, lost her own mother during this time under very, very, again, got to be careful how I put this. We'll say dubious circumstances. We've talked about it. We know the situation, but I've just got to be careful how I present it. So, we're there. Now, Leslie, who is an infection control nurse, or was an infection control nurse with the NHS in Greater Glasgow. Now, she's also the union rep and the responsible for people and things like this, health and safety and things like that. She's not, she's not some Joe in the street. She's a woman who has expert knowledge in the field, quite literally, about these things. She was highlighting to people the various problems, and they were just, initially telling her to shut up and go away. Eventually, she was making such a pain of her ass to herself. It was becoming almost disciplinary. She was the one pointing out that, we're supposed to have health and safety equipment. And those little blue masks they give you, not DP, not health. They weren't up to standard. They weren't DPP. It was just, bit of paper, just nothing. They were not suitable. Actually says on the box, not PPE. I said DPP, didn't I? Not PPE. Actually says that on the box that these things come in. And so she was saying, you have an obligation in law to give us the right equipment. You're not giving us the right equipment. You have an obligation in law to report things. You're not reporting things. You have these obligations in law. And she basically was holding up the management and saying, why are you breaking the law all the time? And they were getting fed up with her. But good, that's her job. That's her job, is to make them fed up with her. Anyway, she's now handed over the remains of evidence, a fifth and last statement to the police. It's been a long process. I mean, she was actually disbarred. Here's the thing, just as an aside on this, she was actually disbarred from actually giving evidence at the inquiry. They really did not want her to give evidence, because the evidence she would give that would be backed up with proof showed how all those senior people had not only got things wrong, but had actually lied under oath to the inquiries, allegedly. Now be careful what I say. But, they were looking for any excuse to make sure that she couldn't give her evidence and that her evidence wouldn't be admitted and all that. It's all very sneaky, and it's obvious what's going on. It's all political. Now, like I say, she's given them Operation Copa, which is the name of this investigation, the last of the evidence. And this investigation was launched by the Crown Office into these tens of thousands of deaths. And, it's grinding very slowly, but the police are actually looking at it, going back to every single care home in Scotland and speaking to the staff and patients who were still alive at the time. But she was, Leslie, we've had her on, as I say, and she's been explaining the whole situation several times. But it's not good. But at the very least, it seems that Sturgeon is still on the hook for this, and Freeman. Of course, I'm very dubious as to whether any of these people will go to prison, because the whole of the Scottish legal system is so vastly corrupt. But for Gene Freeman, it'd be a life sentence, wouldn't it? But she supplied the police. This is Leslie. Supplied the police with phone call recordings. They didn't know she was recording them, so she'd be having phone calls, and she was recording the phone calls between 2020 and 2021. She was campaigning for nurses to be given better PPE, and she was raising the alarm about some of the medication being used to treat COVID. And what really got her was the do not resuscitate orders that were put on people, again, without consent, without discussion with either the patient or the patient's family. And she said, her words, "As far as I'm concerned, Nicola Sturgeon is still under investigation. I've never been told otherwise, and the police were only here at my house last week. I've always said it starts at the top and it works its way down. You've got Sturgeon, Freeman, and the cabal of incompetence. And then you got the public sector agreeing with their nonsense on masks, DNA, CPRs, and all of the rest of it." It is a big cover-up. I mean, it just stinks. It absolutely stinks. Anyway, she said, where did it all come from if it didn't come down from the top? I believe that by deleting messages, they've covered up those decisions. It's, in my mind, the deletion of the messages is the smoking gun. That's what makes them guilty. If they had done no wrong, they wouldn't have had to cover up and delete the messages. It's the old thing, isn't it? If you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. Well, the fact is they deleted them because they've got something to fear, and that fear is jail for the remainder of their unnatural lives. Anyway, the police are saying that this may take another 5 years to investigate. So Sturgeon is sitting there with not a care in the world. But I'm sorry, this is still ongoing. She's appearing at book fairs and comedy clubs with not a thought about what she has done, not a thought about the lives that were removed through choices made by her at the top. Police spokesman has responded and said, "We understand how upsetting and difficult this is for the many families who lost loved ones as a result of the pandemic. Police Scotland is supporting the Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service review into the relevant deaths. And while we continue to gather information, a number of investigations are ongoing at the behest of cops. As the investigations are ongoing, it would be inappropriate to comment further." Sturgeon, Freeman and the cabal of hate were contacted by the Express and offered the chance to respond, but there was no response. So I will say, well done, Leslie. Keep up the pressure, love. We're all behind you. So much support. Don't let them get away with this. We know that they are so complicit in so much bad stuff. Thanks very much. Bit of a long one, but it needed to be said. Bye.